Good evening. The date is February 16th, 2026. From our news desk, we turn our attention southward tonight.
We do.
The map of South America is being redrawn, not with ink, but with power, with crude oil, and in some cases with military action.
That's right. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen a cascade of events. Intelligence analysts are already starting to call it the February shift.
A region in profound transition, then. All of this following the United States military operation in Venezuela.
Indeed. It is a moment of extreme volatility, but also, a strange kind of emerging structure. The dust is settling, and you can start to see the new shapes of power.
Before we unpack these headlines, a quick word on how we're doing this. This deep dive is powered by ProWave AI, and it's all based on intelligence briefings from Stylo News. Now, you might know Stylo as a consumer news app, but its DNA is, well, it's significantly more complex. This is the consumer version of Stylo Intel Ops. That's software built for enterprise, government, and military operations.
And that's a really crucial distinction for our analysis. We aren't just reading headlines. We're using a tool that was built for global decision makers.
A system that can analyze, over 250 sources in more than 20 languages?
That's right. To generate what they call pattern of life analysis and strategic watch lists, it's about finding the signal in the noise.
And there's a lot of noise right now. So let's try to isolate that signal. Our lead story, the Venezuela pivot. It's been 44 days since the January 3rd operation.
The one that resulted in the capture of former President Nicolas Maduro.
And his transfer to New York to face trial. A move that, frankly, shocked the international community. The thinking in intelligence circles was that this would lead to a prolonged period of chaos.
The civil war scenario, even. That was the fear.
Exactly. But what the Stylo Intel engine is showing us is a rapid, almost aggressive stabilization.
It's quite remarkable.
We have interim President Delcy Rodriguez in Caracas. Initially, reports were skeptical. There was a lot of doubt about her willingness to cooperate with Washington.
Of course. Given her history, that was the prevailing assessment back in January. But then you look at the major update from just February 13.
A U.S. delegation, led by the Secretary of Energy, on the ground in Venezuela.
And they didn't just talk, they signed an agreement. We are looking at a historic energy cooperation deal between the United States and Venezuela.
That is a massive geopolitical pivot. From military operation to a signed contract in less than 6 weeks. And now we're hearing that President Rodriguez is planning a trip to Washington, D.C.
Correct. It all signals a very rapid normalization. And the strategic goal here, if you look at the analysis, is pretty clear.
It's more than just economics.
Oh, much more. Washington isn't just trying to stabilize the Venezuelan energy sector. They are moving to physically and contractually displace Russian, Iranian, and Chinese influence in those oil fields. It's a resource denial strategy.
And it's worth remembering, the U.S. refineries on the Gulf Coast are specifically built to process that heavy, sour crude.
Precisely the kind Venezuela has in abundance. Since the sanctions, the U.S. has had to source that from elsewhere, often at a premium.
So reopening the Venezuelan tap is a huge strategic win for U.S. energy security.
And for Rodriguez, it's survival. She knows that without oil revenue, she can't hold the country together.
So the U.S. gets the oil, Venezuela gets a lifeline. But these lifelines always come with conditions. And those conditions are now rippling out to the borders.
They are, which brings us to the security situation, especially along the Colombian frontier.
Let's look at that. It's a 2,200-kilometer border. For years, it was basically a sanctuary for certain groups.
That's putting it mildly. Under the old regime, it was a safe haven for Colombian insurgents, the ELN dissident FARC factions. They used Venezuela to rest, rearm, and launch attacks.
And now, the reports suggest a complete reversal of that.
A total inversion. Under the interim government, the Venezuelan military has started active operations to push these groups out of Venezuela.
So they're flushing them out.
They are. It's a classic hammer and anvil maneuver. The Venezuelan military is the hammer, pushing the insurgents back across the border into Colombia, specifically into the Catatumbo region.
And the Colombian military is the anvil.
Exactly right. Colombian Defense Minister Pedro Sanchez has reported that because these groups are being forced back, Colombia has been able to ramp up its own counterinsurgency operations.
We saw the report. They neutralized 15 ELN members in one go.
They couldn't have done that 3 months ago. The targets would have just slipped back across the border into Venezuela.
That implies a level of coordination between Bogota, Caracas, and, I have to assume, Washington that we haven't seen in decades.
High-level intelligence sharing is happening right now. You have to remember, U.S. President Trump and Colombian President Gustavo Petro met in Washington on February 3rd.
That meeting was a big deal. 2025 was a very tense year for U.S.-Colombia relations.
It was. But the capture of Maduro and this new security cooperation seems to have reset the entire board.
But we have to balance this high-level strategy with what's happening on the ground. When you apply this much pressure, violence often erupts elsewhere. We have a report from February 5th out of Arauca, Colombia.
Yes, while the presidents are shaking hands, the local violence is still acute. The convoy of Senator Jairo Castellanos was attacked. He wasn't there, but 2 of his bodyguards were killed.
And this is happening right before major elections.
That is the critical context. Colombia has legislative elections in March, then presidential elections in May. This pressure cooker effect, pushing insurgents back into Colombia. While it might be strategically sound in the long run, it creates these immediate violent flashpoints.
A dangerous time to be a politician in the border regions. Speaking of pressure cookers, let's look a bit further north. While Venezuela is getting the parrot, Cuba seems to be getting the stick. The analysis is using the term economic strangulation.
And it's not an exaggeration. The U.S. administration's strategy is explicitly aimed at regime change in Havana. But the weapon isn't military, it's energy.
They're turning off the lights.
Literally. The U.S. has imposed an energy embargo that cuts off Cuba's oil. Historically, Venezuela and Mexico were their lifelines. Venezuela's supply is now gone because of the new deal we just discussed.
Well, what about Mexico?
Well, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has reportedly cut back on oil shipments. She's talked about sending humanitarian aid, but under pressure from U.S. tariffs, the oil has stopped.
And the result inside Cuba?
Catastrophic. The reports we're seeing describe daily blackouts over 12 hours long. Transportation is at a standstill. Food is spoiling because there's no refrigeration.
It's a full-blown humanitarian crisis.
It is. You have the Dominican Republic trying to act as a refueling hub. You have the Vatican calling for dialogue. But geopolitically, China and Russia are offering verbal support, criticizing what they call colonial intervention, but the oil isn't showing up. The blockade is working.
So we have Venezuela being reintegrated, Colombia stabilizing its border, and Cuba completely isolated. It feels like a very concerted effort to clear the board of hostile players.
It's a reassertion of dominance. And that really leads us to the biggest player in the background here. This isn't just about Latin America for the United States. It's about countering China.
The Belt and Road Initiative.
Exactly. The administration views the Western Hemisphere as its sphere of influence. To that end, President Trump has announced a summit for Latin American leaders in Florida on March 7th.
That's coming up very soon.
It is, and the timing is no accident. The summit is scheduled just before President Trump visits Beijing. The idea is to walk into his meeting with Xi Jinping having already consolidated the Americas.
A demonstration of leverage.
Precisely. And the friction points are very specific. You look at Peru, for example, the issue of the Shanxi port.
The massive deepwater port owned by Chinese interests.
Yes. And there have been judicial rulings there that limit local oversight. That has set off alarm bells in Washington. They see it as a potential dual-use facility commercial today, military tomorrow.
And then there's Panama.
Yeah.
The language coming out of Washington about the canal has been, well, aggressive. Threats to retake control.
It's caused a lot of alarm about sovereignty in Panama. But notice the countermove. In Peru, at the same time there's tension over the port, they've decided to modernize their Air Force. And they're buying American.
The F-16V Block 70 fighter jets.
Exactly. Replacing their old Russian and French planes. There's even talk of Peru getting major non-NATO ally status, so you see the pattern.
It's a very clear message.
Work with us, buy our jets, sell us your oil, and we're allies. Work with China on major infrastructure, and we have a problem. It's a very transactional foreign policy.
I want to pivot for a moment, though, to the human element in all of this. We're talking about F-16s and oil deals, but what does this mean for the average citizen? There's a report here from Lima, Peru, that is pretty sobering.
The situation at the Hospital Nacional Guillermo Almenara.
Yes. While the government is signing contracts for fighter jets, the Stylo reports show a critical shortage of medications for cancer and diabetes patients. 2-month delays.
It's the classic guns versus butter dilemma. The big picture numbers might look good, military deals, trade, but public health is falling apart. There's also that controversy in Lima about a pastor released despite abuse allegations, sparking this huge debate about the justice system.
It paints a picture of a country projecting strength abroad while struggling with basic governance at home.
It does.
And yet, amidst all this hard power, there's still room for a little bit of symbolism of soft power.
You must be talking about the rose diplomacy.
I am. Colombia sent 18,000 roses to members of the U.S. Congress before Valentine's Day.
It sounds a little trivial, doesn't it? But it's actually quite significant. It's a reminder of the deep economic ties. The flower export industry is a massive employer in Colombia.
So it's a way of saying we're not just a security partner, we're a trade partner. We are in your markets.
Exactly. It's a soft power move to smooth over some of the rougher edges of the security talks.
So if we step back and look at the pattern of life analysis from Stylo, what's the big narrative here?
The pattern is a rapid shift from unilateral action to bilateral consolidation. The U.S. acted alone on Venezuela. Now is locking in these bilateral deals: energy with Venezuela, security with Colombia, jets with Peru,
While at the same time increasing pressure on the holdouts, like Cuba.
to force them into the fold or effectively to break the regime. It's a very binary map being drawn in real time.
And for the decision makers, for the U.S., it's America first hegemony. But for Latin American leaders, Petro Rodriguez, it's about pragmatic survival. They're choosing cooperation because the cost of resistance is just too high.
You just have to look at Cuba and Mexico to see that.
So what should our listeners be watching for in the coming weeks? What are the key indicators?
I'd say three things. First, that March 7th summit in Florida. Who shows up and what deals get signed? Second, the energy crisis in Cuba. Does it reach a breaking point? And third, the stability of the Venezuelan interim government. Can Rodriguez actually deliver on these energy deals while also securing her borders, or will it all prove to be too much?
A great number of moving parts. And as we said at the start, the best way to track these is not just to listen to us, but to look at the data yourself.
That's right. The intelligence we use today comes from Stylo News. And if you're someone who really needs to understand risk in the region for business or just because you're deeply interested, the tools they offer are professional grade.
You can download the app at www.stylonews.com. It has that location AI bot we mentioned, where you can literally select a region on a map and see the kind of pattern analysis we've been discussing. It's not just a news feed, it's personalized intelligence.
The same engine used by enterprise and government operations now on your phone.
Well, that concludes this deep dive into the South American shift. We hope this has helped clarify the events of the last few weeks.
It's certainly going to be an interesting spring.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. If you have a topic you want us to tackle next, maybe those upcoming Colombian elections or the fallout from the Florida summit, please let us know.
And don't forget to follow Stylo News on social media for the day-to-day updates.
Until next time, stay curious and stay informed. Goodbye.